In this video, I'm going to be breaking down a Shopify e-commerce brand which did roughly $745,000 since July of 2022 until December with a consistent 13x ROAS. Not only will I be covering the entire Google ad strategy that I applied for this e-commerce brand, I will also be going over the entire store setup, how it looks, why the conversion rate is what it was, the testing phase, scaling, and even the optimization strategy. So by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to apply these things to scale your own Shopify store or e-commerce brand to the next level with Google Ads. Now, I have the Google Ads account open for that specific brand right here on my screen. And for this month, you can see that so far it has done about $60,000. And this is Canadian dollar currency, by the way, but it has done $60,000 at a 31x ROAS. Yes, a 31x ROAS. All these campaigns are basically the campaigns we set up. And when I say we, I mean me and my team for this e-commerce brand. Now, to show you that the conversion tracking is properly set up, I'm just gonna open up the segment and conversion action window to show you that the current conversion tag firing is directly the Simprosis tag. So this is fully accurate. There's no kinds of issues going on with this tag as of right now because we were the ones to set it up correctly back in July. Before I started, that was definitely one issue with this e-commerce brand. But the time period I want to kind of change now to is the time period from July 23rd, which is essentially when I took on this e-commerce brand under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing, all the way to the end of the year, which is until the time we were working with this e-commerce brand. And unfortunately, this was one of the worst kind of heartbreaks I had to go through. We stopped working with this e-commerce brand only because, and you will be surprised to hear the reason, they were unable to keep up with the orders. They were unable to keep the stock within the US warehouse simply because it takes a lot of money for this e-commerce brand because it is high ticket to store the items in an US warehouse to get the correct amount of products to begin with. So all these issues kind of led to a lot of major downtime for the e-commerce brand, and as a result, we had to end work with this brand even though the results were out of this world until they get back on track in terms of the servicing and all of that stuff. Hence, you can see currently the budget overall is very, very low. I mean, this was not the budget we were spending at all during this time period because for a majority of the time period, we were spending $300, $400, and so on and so forth for this e-commerce brand. But as you can see, from July 23rd all the way to the end of December, we spent roughly 54,000 Canadian dollars on this ad account to make back $745,000 at a ROAS of a 13x. Very mind-blowing results, but it kind of makes sense once you start to understand how this store was laid out. So to start with the store setup, I'm gonna show you an example store which looks about 99% identical to the brand I worked with. Now, of course, for security reasons, I can't directly give you the name of the brand, but this brand right here is a 3D printer brand called Prusa Research. It's doing very well, has about same basic setup as the brand that we're talking about today. And if we look at the store setup, we can see exactly why this happened. So first things first, one thing you want to understand is everything that has to do with store setup should entirely be based on your niche. So whatever you do on your own e-commerce brand, it should not be copied from just a random YouTube video or a random person telling you what to do in terms of the store design because every niche is different. Now for the 3D printer niche, which by the way, my e-commerce brand was in a very similar niche, this is the kind of layout that works. It's very professional, it's very sleek and straightforward. You don't see any kinds of fancy, cute little images or cute little photos or on top and overly use of emotional words. That's simply because the people who use these products are within this niche like to keep it very simple, very straightforward. They would rather know about the product, how it works, how it can benefit their life, etc., etc. So that's exactly what Prusa Research has done here. They're using the color orange very heavily. They have certain trust badges. I mean, this trust badge, very simple. Some might even say that this looks like a pretty boring website, but that's exactly what works for this audience and for this niche. That's also what the e-commerce brand I was working with did for their niche. They found all the colors, they found a custom landing page which just worked for their e-commerce brand, and we were able to scale it because if you look at the conversion rate during that time, it was for our campaigns at 2%, but in total 1.20. And that is very impressive when you have an average order value of $500, $1,000, even $5,000 to $10,000 every single day. So first thing that they got right was the entire store setup. Again, they had a very custom landing page with a custom description, so this does the trick. They had a video showcasing the product. In fact, the e-commerce brand I'm talking about, they're also very active on YouTube. So as a result, they're able to kind of incorporate those YouTube videos within their descriptions, within their product pages, and all sorts of stuff like that. They have these very wonderful, straightforward images describing certain specifications of the product. I mean, for a normal person who has no idea about 3D printers, this might make no sense. However, it's very important to include for this audience and this niche. So again, the one thing I want you to get in mind is not the overall kind of design this store is based upon, but rather the necessities that the store has put on its landing page, which is also what the e-commerce brand I'm talking about. It all comes down to your niche and your audience. But one thing the e-commerce brand did really right, which I see also proves our research doing at the very end, is they had this kind of comparison little chart where they compared one product to another. Now, a lot of e-commerce store owners have those upsells, downsells, and all sorts of stuff like that, which just screams buy it now, buy it now, buy it now. And that's really not the way to go in 2023. Instead, you might want to compare similar products to each other directly on the product page, because let's say, for example, this product that we're looking at, it's a little bit out of range for us, or it just doesn't fit our needs. So if there's a comparison for maybe a lower quality product which fits my needs perfectly, or maybe even a higher quality product, so 3 comparisons in total comparing to the current product we're looking at, that might just do the trick of selling this product, simply because it gives the person that's reading the description exactly what they want. So this is sort of a better way to do an upsell in 2023 and onwards, instead of just having those buy now buttons with a random product just stuck on the landing page. But this kind of brings us to the initial testing phase, exactly what we did during this time period to begin even getting these results, because that's the number one question 99% of e-commerce owners have, which is, if you're not currently getting results with Google, or you're just not able to scale to the next level, what do you do and how do you get started with it so that you can actually scale your current campaigns to the next level? And you might be already doing 30K a month, 40K a month, 50K a month. I know this brand, before we joined, it was doing a decent amount in terms of sales. So if we look at June 1st to July 22nd, which we were not working with during that time, as you can see, all of our campaigns had 0 spend, but they spent $7,000 to make back $93,000. So they were still doing fairly well at a 14.56x ROAS. However, if you look at it at a broader view, so from the 1st of January, or maybe even November of 2021, all the way to before we started work, we can see that the overall trend for this e-commerce brand was basically going downward. So if we now change this to November 1st right here, all the way to July 22nd, and look at the time period at a monthly view or even a weekly view, we can see exactly what was happening. So just change this to all the campaigns. And now we can see on a monthly view right here, it was sort of starting to go down, the overall ad spend. And the brand owner did not know what to do, why this ad spend was starting to go down, and their ROAS was also starting to go down a bit. There were a few spikes upwards, but that's only when the ad spend went down to $4,200, all the way from $10,000. So that's essentially what was happening. On a weekly view, we can see this even in greater detail. So right here, a lot of kind of downward spiral overall. Even with a few ups, it was mostly on the way down. So that's essentially what had happened. They had come down to $300 per week ad spend, and that's when we came in and basically blew up the brand. So from April 1st all the way up to December 31st is essentially when things started to go up, the ad spend started to go up, exactly what the owner of this brand wanted. But now going back to the essential time period, the earlier time period from July 23rd to maybe even the end of August. So right here, we can see that we started launching a few campaigns, and these campaigns were launched with basically the same exact strategies I teach on my YouTube channel. This was based off of the phases. So TPS strategy, testing phase, profitability phase, and scaling phase. So right here, we can see that currently we had these campaigns enabled, and these campaigns, this top one was the best sellers campaign, essentially the P and the S of the TPS strategy, which is the profitability / scaling campaign. So what we did is essentially we noticed that this ad account had a lot of products which were getting decent amount of results. Before we even joined, there were products which were selling, but they were just not ideally getting shown because everything was thrown inside this one all products campaign right here. So this is a Canada campaign which they had running prior to our entry. You can see their overall results. This one was an other products campaign, which means this was just a testing campaign, not doing too well. This was a UK based campaign. So essentially what we did is we kind of segregated it out based on testing versus profitability. But here's the twist. Because the ad account was in a struggling phase, even though the ROAS was a 14x, they did not have enough money to keep stock for their products within the warehouse. We essentially just cut out the T from the TPS strategy and only applied the P and the S, meaning the profitability and scaling phase. Hence, why we only have one Performance Max campaign in those initial days. And this PMax campaign ran at essentially an 8x ROAS. And if we look at the conversion value by conversion time, we can see it was at a 6.91x ROAS. However, the reason why we cut off the testing was because the ad account needed results fast. It needed profitable results fast. So we kept the TPS strategy just to the P and the S. We launched a few branded search campaigns to get back in terms of retargeting. We launched a search campaign for the cold traffic because we knew that this ad account had a previous history of doing well with a search campaign, and that's essentially what our initial strategy to get this account back on track was. So as you can see, just 4 different campaigns, spending a decent amount of money. I mean, in that time period, we only spent $6,000 because we wanted to boost up this ad account very slowly and steadily without harming the ROAS. And this initial strategy alone led to a 13x ROAS during that initial time. And this was profitable for that e-commerce brand because they were again on a downward trend. So once that was taken care of, once the testing phase was running properly, that's when we kind of took things a step further. So from the 1st of August all the way up to the end of October is when we went into the full-on profitability and scaling phase. So this kind of incorporated us launching a few more campaigns, and in this case, even with a few more campaigns, we were just running off of 6 total. We had a few more search campaigns running and we were testing around a bit more now. So if we change this to all for the campaign status, we can see there were a few other PMax campaigns, standard shopping campaigns that were running during this time period, which were stopped. And these were more on the testing side because now we were getting enough results where we could actually test stuff. We were increasing the ad spend. So we tested more of the TPS strategy. We also tried testing the TPS strategy via standard shopping. So this is a standard shopping at the very top. For Canada only, this was the testing campaign for the USA only with standard shopping because Performance Max was not working. So step by step, we kind of started to implement more and more strategies based on what we already knew worked for this ad account, based on our overall KPIs, based on our overall needs. And the number one thing I want you to get is we did not just stick to the US. We were launching campaigns in Canada. We were launching campaigns in the UK. We were also launching campaigns that were search campaigns within different countries as well, because we wanted to get the overall cost per customer acquisition down to a minimum. But during this time period, we did notice US and Canada was performing the best. And in addition, during that time, some of our cold traffic campaigns started to provide very good results within the United States only. So that's when we decided to kind of narrow down our strategy even further because it was about to be Q4 and we started to scale only those campaigns which were providing results. So these few campaigns we started scaling from the 1st of August all the way up to the end of December. So we're not looking at until December 31st. That's essentially what we focused on scaling. As you can see, the AOV increased dramatically. The ROAS for cold traffic campaigns was at a 10x. These retargeting branded search campaigns were running at 33x because they were getting back a lot of the lost sales as well. And the search campaigns were very well optimized. We were optimizing constantly and we got them to provide us a decent amount of results, which brings us to the optimization strategy. So we kept the optimization strategy very simple, very straightforward. We were only optimizing every 5 to 7 days, and we only did it every 5 days because the budgets were so high during that time period and we wanted to keep a decent level of profit. So we went into the campaigns especially for PMax. The way we were optimizing was looking at the products and essentially getting rid of whatever was not hitting our KPIs. So every few days we would go in and we would look at what products were not hitting our KPIs or just were not profitable at all. Like for example, this one, if it was not hitting our KPIs, we would simply exclude it. But besides that, we would be going into the inside section very often to look at new keywords popping up. And those keywords we would then directly reincorporate back into the product titles, product descriptions, and so on and so forth. That was one main reason why, despite having an AOV of $500, $1,000, $5,000, our CPCs were very, very profitable. I mean, $1.23 Canadian for this product that costs $1,500. That's a very decent CPC. 45 cents for this one. That's also a very good one. I mean, a lot of e-commerce brands I work with and talk with, they're selling products for $50, $100 with CPCs above $1 USD, which I think personally is not gonna lead them to profitability, but that's besides the point. But one thing that was definitely helping this e-commerce brand tremendously was the incorporation of other advertising platforms. And I don't just mean paid traffic, I also mean free organic traffic. So they were utilizing Facebook ads, TikTok ads to a certain extent. But in addition to that, they were utilizing YouTube organic. So organic YouTube videos, they were utilizing posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, all sorts of things like that. They were also hiring UGC creators for TikTok, and that was leading to a lot of additional sales for this e-commerce brand, which kind of helped boost up the overall revenue from Google. But essentially, once we had the overall ad strategy for this under control with Google Ads, it was all about optimizing, keeping things steady, not really moving things up and down too much. As you can see right here, we try to keep the ad cost very steady and increasing only when the ROAS supported that ad cost. But after the scaling period in December, we did start to kind of go scale down a bit just because the overall issues with servicing and fulfillment, which is one thing again you want to keep in mind when you start to scale your own e-commerce brand. But overall, the long-term vision and goal for this e-commerce brand is essentially to get it back on track in terms of fulfillment, in terms of servicing, because once that happens, that's when we can come in and start scaling these campaigns at cost up once again. But because now we have a very stable foundation for the ads, we have found a strategy that works, it should not be very difficult to get back on track. That's the beauty. Once you find that right strategy, once you optimize the campaigns and the products enough, because once you do that, you don't need to consistently change things every few days for the sake of changing. But if you're currently doing $40,000 or more per month in revenue, you need a little bit of extra help to scale your e-commerce brand to the next level. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can personally work together and make that happen. But watch this video on my left side or on my right side to take your e-commerce brand's journey to the next level with Google Ads.